Today I'm talking about intermittent fasting and its effects in diabetic patients. Now, what is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is when you alternate between periods of eating and fasting. Some people find it easy to fast for 16 hours and confine meals to just 8 hours of the day, while others have a hard time and need to shorten their fasting period. Now we need to look into the benefits and ill effects of intermittent fasting. Some studies show that eating in a 6-hour period and fasting for 18 hours can trigger a metabolic switch from glucose based to ketone based energy, with increased stress resistance, increased longevity, and a decreased incidence of diseases, including cancer and obesity. Losing weight and being physically active help lower your risk of obesity related diseases such as diabetes, sleep apnea, and some types of cancers. For these diseases, intermittent fasting seems to be about as beneficial as any other type of diet that reduces overall calories. Intermittent fasting may be more beneficial than other diets for reducing inflammation and improving conditions associated with inflammation such as Alzheimer's disease, arthritis, asthma, multiple sclerosis, stroke, etc. Intermittent fasting can also have transient side effects in some, such as hunger, fatigue, insomnia, nausea, and headaches. It may be safe for many people, but not for everyone, especially for pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers. You have to be extremely cautious before starting intermittent fasting if you have diabetes, gastroesophageal reflux disease, and kidney stones. Fasting can help our bodies repair and perhaps extend our lifespans, but it may not be the best approach for losing weight. Some popular approaches to intermittent fasting include alternate day fasting, wherein the person eats a normal diet one day and either completely fasts or have one small meal the next day. 5 is to 2 fasting pattern, wherein the person eats normal diet 5 days a week and a fast for 2 days a week. Or daily timed restricted fasting, wherein the person eats normally but only within an 8-hour window each day. For example, skip breakfast but eat lunch around noon and dinner by 8 p.m. Time restricted feeding pattern is used as a weight loss tool. You tend to reduce calories, but you don't learn the essential behavior change around what you're putting into your body. Without learning what a healthy diet looks like, people gain weight again when they stop fasting. If you feel starved and restricted, then the next day you might overeat. The purpose of intermittent fasting is to increase the amount of time between the last meal of one day and the first of the next day. Fasting is linked to a process called autophagy. Autophagy is the process by which the body starts to recycle the structures inside its cells, including the nucleus where the DNA is stored, mitochondria, which synthesizes the chemical our cells use for energy, and lysosomes, which remove waste from our cells. In doing so, the cell can remove defunct structures, freeing up new raw materials from which new cellular structures can be built. Some of the new raw material can be used to make cell protective proteins that further extend the lifespan of the cells. This autophagy can improve immune system. Autophagy usually occurs in sleep and is also brought on by exercise and starvation. If you need to know how to fast, one must understand the mechanism behind hunger and also what happens to us after we eat. Hunger is felt when ghrelin, a hormone released from our stomach, and triggers the production of two other hormones called NPY and AGRP in the hypothalamus. While these three hormones generate feeling of hunger, there are the satiety hormones like leptin that suppress it. When you stop eating around 7 p.m., you will still be in the fed state until 10 p.m. because you will still be digesting nutrients. Any carbohydrates in your diet will give you a nice supply of glucose, our premium source of fuel for few hours. Once this energy source is used up, the body switches from fed state into a catabolic state, usually around 3 hours after eating. In this phase, glycogen stored in the liver and muscles is broken down into glucose. When these glycogen stores are also depleted, body switches from glucose to ketones, which are made in the liver from fatty acids. It's at this stage of ketosis autophagy is triggered. Now, a question often asked to us by many patients are, is there a role for intermittent fasting in the treatment of diabetes? Although diabetes is characterized as a disorder of insulin resistance, a majority of pharmaceutical treatments for this disease promote increase in insulin levels to achieve better sugar control. This leads to a number of issues including weight gain, worsened insulin resistance, increased levels of leptin and decreased levels of adiponectin. Due to its effects on weight loss, decreasing insulin resistance, and favorable shift in levels of leptin and adiponectin, intermittent fasting has shown promise in the treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Diabetic patients should also be extremely careful with various issues they can encounter while doing intermittent fasting. Hence, should only be practiced with the consent and strict monitoring of your treating doctor. The various issues that they can encounter are hypo or hyperglycemia, binge eating during eating period, dehydration, low energy and irritability, heartburn, bloating, constipation, and hormonal imbalance. So it's clear that intermittent fasting has its advantages as well as disadvantages stacked against each other for a person with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Hence, extreme caution and monitoring is advised and should only be followed with the consent of your treating doctor.